Good morning and welcome to everyone joining us today for Tree Talk episode 191 with myself, Jack Neville, and Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. Again, so much to look back on. Limerick are back in the All-Ireland final. The Camogie team reached the knockout stages. The ladies footballers are in semi-final action this weekend. And we also have the first round of the Senior Football Championship to look back on, and also the second round to come this weekend. So stay tuned for all that and more.
The impression of the game you get out of it, what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tommaso Sheahy, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the work out today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
A fourth All-Ireland final in 5 years. Look forward to, Matt. I suppose it's kind of hard to believe when you look back a few years. Just, I suppose, the growth of this Limerick team, but that's exactly where they are. And it was a very eventful weekend across all codes, really.
Yeah, I think you're being kind to me there now, Jack, in so far as when you say looking back, because I happened to be there in 1973 when Limerick won that All-Ireland in Croke Park, and a fine damp day it was. And quite honestly, you know, you've got to pinch yourself and to believe that what's happening and what's unfolding in front of our eyes, like it's just something. It's something that you dream of, and it's something that you honestly think is for other counties like Kilkenny's and the Corks and the Tipperaries of this world. But we're up there emulating them now, Jack, and by God, you know, we love it. We love it, and we're not keen to part with it anytime soon.
No, we definitely aren't. And I suppose we will look back on that Galway game in full as we go along here. And also, we'll start briefly looking forward to Kilkenny, but we will have a full preview to come next weekend. But it was a very busy weekend. Like, obviously, the Camogie team reaching the quarterfinals and the start of the Senior Football Championship. It was straight into, I suppose, the ticket things when I came home. It was a delayed flight, so I was a bit late into Ballygrand, but straight from Dublin to Ballygrand for the football. And we're really into the spring of summer now, aren't we?
We're really into the spring of summer, and I know what you're getting at now, Ballylanders and Ballysteen. So you might as well get it off your chest now from the start.
Well, look,
this is the gloating corner now, so get your bit of gloating
yeah, but we started
off your chest.
We started in Vegas that morning, but we were in Ballygrand. I missed the start of the game, as I said. But we'll talk about the Senior Football Championship in a while. But like with so much to get through, we'll start with the hurling, obviously. And it was a test. It was a real test. Limerick were really put to the pin of their collar, and I suppose they were 6-1 ahead after 5 or 8 minutes, we'll say. But Galway had a lot of wides, and once Galway kind of clicked, it was real pressure on for Limerick. But it was a brilliant test to get. And once again, like you can't rule out John Kiley's men, because when push came to shove and the likes of Dave Reedy came on, I know Cian Lynch and Peter Casey came on as well, all stars, but it was Dave Reedy that really swung the tide. But brilliant for Limerick to get such a good test.
Absolutely, Jack. It's ideal. It's ideal. Winning a semi-final by a big score and winning a semi-final without a test isn't one bit of good. Isn't a bit of good to anybody. And like I for one wasn't at all surprised by the Galway test, because, like, Jack, if you recall, when we went back at the very beginning of this of the championship, when we did a pre-championship podcast, you know, I for one anyway felt that the biggest challenge to Limerick would come from Galway, and they seemed to be physically and otherwise best. And Galway will obviously be very, very disappointed to have lost the game. Now Limerick got a flying start, and during which time Galway were hitting a few wides. that in the end proved costly. But it has, you have to, and you touched on it there at the start. You've just got to admire the reservoir of resolve and that's in this Limerick team, and the resilience that's in this Limerick team. And you mentioned as well the players coming off the bench, and they made a huge difference. But look, it was a game that we were lucky to get over, I would think, and in hindsight, it was the best possible preparatory game that you could get for an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, definitely pushed to the pin of their collar. And look, you had said it at the start that Galway were a team that not to be fearful of, that could put it up to Limerick. I suppose size and strength. And when you think about it, in 18 there was only a point between them. In 20 there was only 3 between them. So it was never going to be, I suppose, the walkover that people are making it out to be. But I suppose,
Jack, Raf and I were discussing that particular narrative, and I just don't know what the basis for it was, because as far as I was concerned, there was no basis whatsoever for it. That was pie in the sky stuff, and that was people getting carried away.
Yeah, definitely people getting carried away. And I suppose Limerick had won 4 in a row and Galway had lost in the Leinster final. But I suppose Limerick have been caught at semi-final stages before, and we've had some brilliant days. We've had 4 semi-final wins in the last 5 years, but you'd still remember 2013 against Clare when you came in as Munster champions, and 14 against Kilkenny when you pushed them all away. And semi-finals are there to be won at the end of the day, regardless if you win by a point or win by 20 points. That's what they're there for. It's great to have the crowd back. It's hard to imagine that it was a bigger crowd than was there for last year's All-Ireland final, but the roar of the crowd, having Peter and Keane to come on, obviously gave him a huge lift. But again, it was the likes of Dave Reedy and Conor Boyle and Cathal O'Neill. And we had said Limerick's squad depth for the last 4 or 5 years has been, I suppose, exemplary, and they always make contribution. But with kind of players coming through and the injuries, that squad depth was, I suppose, brought back a bit. A lot of those lads that came on were starting, whereas it was full show that when Limerick have their full squad, they have the best squad in Ireland, bar none. And it was the subs really that made the telling difference.
Absolutely, there isn't a question about that. They have an absolutely fantastic squad that stretches right even into the extended, even into the extended panel, Jack. Some wonderful players down there, and it gives you an idea of the challenge that teams have to match up to Limerick and knock them off their pedestal. And like it was put to John Kiley like that, and I suppose he accepted. He very clearly said that was par for the course. You're All-Ireland champions, and counties raised their game to play Limerick. There isn't any doubt at all about that. We saw it in the Munster final. We although I'm not so sure it was as evident last week, because I'm convinced that Galway are a very good team.
Yeah.
Jack. I'm convinced they need that little bit to get over the line. Now, what that little bit is, I'm not so sure, but they're there or thereabouts. But the resilience that Limerick showed in the Munster final was just absolutely second to none.
Yeah, no.
And if you go back a little bit further, if you go back to the Tipperary team, and this is no disrespect to Tipperary, this year's Tipperary team was not rated. And they came to the Gaelic grounds, and through sheer persistent heart, they made life difficult for Limerick for more than 3/4 of the game.
Yeah.
And Waterford did the same in the second round in the Gaelic grounds. Now there was a perception there that at the beginning of the championship, which was something I could not subscribe to for 1 minute, that it was going to be a Limerick Waterford All-Ireland final. Yeah. And that second round game was billed as a Munster final, the first of 3 meetings. Munster final rehearsal, All-Ireland final rehearsal. Where is, personally, I was of the opinion right from the start that I felt that Waterford would struggle to get out of Munster if they'd get out of it, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Like people are getting notions. I don't know. Like, I think we should stick with reality.
Oh yeah, we should definitely be sticking with reality, and I suppose people do get them notions, but at the end of the day, for whoever is playing Limerick, it's their All Ireland final, because you'd imagine if you can get past Limerick, you know, you're beating the best team in the land, and you alluded to that point there. So I do think every game Limerick are going to get is going to be a very tough game. Now Kilkenny are very interesting side, and I don't want to dwell on them too much, but you know, they haven't met in 3 years, which is kind of crazy to think, because Kilkenny have won 3 Leinsters in a row. It's not like they've just awoken all of a sudden. But you're looking at that 2019 game, Limerick were the form team in the country. They'd won Munster, they're defending All-Ireland champions, and Kilkenny were kind of written off. That narrative has probably changed now with the manner of Kilkenny's performance, and I suppose how far Limerick were pushed. That beforehand you would have said, oh, Limerick will win this at the canter, but now people are understanding that this is another really tough game for Limerick.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of people think that it's an awful tough game because, first of all, it's Kilkenny, and the perception going around that it was a super performance against Clare, and it was, you know, for all practical purposes, it was a fine performance. But like closer analysis, you know, throws up a slightly different picture, Jack, in my opinion, you know. But obviously we'll be talking about that next week. But opposition, very, very formidable opposition. Like you're taking on the most successful manager in the game's history. You're taking on a superb team of hurlers, and you're taking on a tremendous, absolutely hurling tradition. So when you have the confluence of all those three, you have a job on hands on July the 17th.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll touch on it next week. But the only thing for Limerick is they've nearly always given their best performance of the year in the All Ireland final. Like, I mean, in 18, they blitzed Galway, and like Galway came back into the game. That's fair enough. They scored maybe 2-3 in injury time, but like Limerick had that game won after 65 minutes or so. 2020, 30 points to 19, and then last year was the most comprehensive final performance we've ever seen. So that does bode well for Kiley and his side. But again, we'll look into that next week.
It bodes very well, and it bodes very well, and things are beginning to come into place at the right time. And in fairness, it's nothing more than the man. A lot of challenges to meet over the last 12 months with the injury to Peter Casey, with the injury to Cian Lynch, and there was a couple of sending offs that were there that robbed him of players for key games. So, like, he's entitled to get a break like everybody else, and have a full hand to choose from. And I suppose having a full hand to choose from in these circumstances, and the circumstances of the current Limerick squad, Jack, brings with it one hell of a headache that there isn't a tablet that was ever made would have cure. It's a fantastic headache to have, but as he made the point to us during the week, and you were there with me, Jack, when he said it, like it's about himself and his management getting it right as well, to getting the calls right on the day.
Yeah, and I know it's probably a pointless exercise for us to be, I suppose, making hypothetical situations, but if it was you, and I've asked you this so many times, if you were at the helm, look, we saw Cian and Peter probably, they weren't at the levels they were at last year, which is fair enough, because they were training really hard last year and getting game time. But they'll have another 2 weeks. They'll have the experience. I suppose the mental side of it will be, we got out there, we didn't get injured, we're ready to go. Like, Cian is probably different because he has actually started games this year. But for Peter, it'll be 12 months. Well, the bonus 12 months since his last start. Like, do they start? Does David Reedy come in and start, or how would you go about it? I know we're not seeing him in training or whatever, but
yeah, look, Jack, I just don't honestly know, and you factor into the mix as well that Kyle Hayes has readapted to playing in the forwards.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
after a few shaky performances, where he clearly was, not that he was bad, but he was trying to find his feet in back in his old environment. Like he just didn't get the man of the match for turning up last Sunday. I thought he was really back to the type of form that we had become accustomed to him in back in 2018 as a centre forward. So, like where are the vacancies? I asked the question.
Yeah, that is very true, because if Cian Lynch comes back in, he's centre forward. Like, Kyle is probably second or third now in team sheet, wherever he is. He's that high up in the list. So there's a lot of rejigging that would have to be done. Before the game, I would have said I'd like to see Kyle back at 7, but as you said there, he's put that an extra bit of headache there for John Kiley. That like, if he goes back to 7 now, would it take him time to readapt there, because he's, as you said, found his feet at 11.
Yeah, but then Morrissey is giving John a headache too with his consistency at 7.
Yeah, so, and also he can play at 3 as well. So
yeah. But I don't know, any place you put in Dan, I think he will adapt and be consistent. That's his trademark, I think. Because he has been remarkably consistent since moving out. Like, it's a huge jump. Like, you're playing wing back and you're asked to go back full back, and he adapted there so seamlessly and picked up 2 All-Stars, and should have picked up 3. Make no mistake about it. But Jack, we're not going near All-Stars. Stay away from them.
No, we're not. Like, Kilkenny have been known, I suppose Brian Cody has been known to kind of pluck these fellas from obscurity for All-Ireland final day. Could we see something like that for Limerick? Could you see, I don't know, Cian Lynch maybe inside and full forward or corner forward or something, or like Dan Morrissey moving to the forwards and a Kyle back? Like, you don't really know, as John said. Like, it's up to the management team to get it right. But look, that's the nature of the job. You won't know till the final whistle if it was right, and it could be right, and Kilkenny could come up with a big performance. But it's good to see that Limerick have so many options again.
Fantastic, Jack. But don't ask me to pick the first 15.
No, we won't. Look, we'll let John and Paul and the lads pick that, and they've never gone wrong with us so far. So
it's above my pace.
What I will say is, and you kind of alluded to it there, with the kind of injuries to Peter and Keane there in the forwards as well. Cathal O'Neill had picked up an injury. You obviously had the red card to Garrod and things, whether it was deserved now or not. But there's been a lot of kind of fluctuation in the forward line. But
but Jack, it needs to be mentioned as well, Barry Murphy has been through an awful lot to get back into the groove. Darren O'Connell is out injured.
Yeah.
Brian O'Grady is injured. These have reduced, and like, certainly Brian O'Grady was certainly showing. I thought through the Munster Cup and in the league. So like, these guys, they reduced the options, and they're a loss. It's great. I'm delighted to see Barry Murphy back. Barry Murphy, in my opinion, would probably be a starter in most county teams, Jack.
Oh, he would definitely. We saw him when he came on last year against Cork, an immediate impact. But what I was getting to there is, we'll say, Nicky Quaid and the 6 backs, and I suppose William O'Donoghue and Dardenham to an extent, but more so the back unit have been the star of the show in my eyes. I was running through, I know you don't like All-Stars, but potential All-Star team, like, you'd imagine Barry Nash is a certainty, one of the front runners for the year. So is Dermot Burns. Sean Finn was imperious again at the weekend. Declan Hannon has been brilliant. Dan Morrissey and Mike Casey, who have swapped positions. Like, that the backs have really got Limerick this far. Aaron Gillan has been superb, obviously, and Seamus Flanagan had his day, and Kyle had his day, and so has Garrod and Tom. But it's been an effort of the backs that have got Limerick this far, I think.
Well, Barry Nash has been absolutely superb, and I would be surprised and disappointed in equal measure. And I don't want to be jumping the gun at this stage if Barry Nash isn't shortlisted for Hurler of the Year.
Yeah,
He has
definitely.
he's been that good. He's been that effective. He's been that influential. He's made that level of impact, and we made the point right through it. And it was pointed that John Kiley played him through the. He was just one of the few senior players that he played during the Munster Senior Cup.
Yeah,
He nominated him as captain, and he led from the front. He was outstanding in those games. So and he has brought that form right into the league on a consistent basis, and has, if anything, upped the level of performance that he showed in those early season competitions in the championship. He's at his very best at the moment, and if you look at his history, Jack, it's a phenomenal story.
yeah.
His history is he started off as a forward.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was transitioned. He was transitioned back to half back, and when it was necessary 2 years ago, when John Kiley had to fill two holes in the full back line.
Yeah.
When Mikey Casey and Richie English were out, he seamlessly drifted back into cornerback. Once said drifted, he was seamlessly put back into cornerback, and he adapted there from the get go.
Yeah, like
Like
he's been
Barry,
phenomenal
Barry
there.
Nash. Barry Nash to me is an absolutely superb hurler, and a lot of the time his contribution is understated and
Oh,
underrated. But
definitely.
I don't think we can state enough the importance of Barry Nash to the team. A fantastic player. I honestly think the way he's played right consistently through the league, the championship in particular, game on game. Like if you're looking for a hurler of the year, he's a candidate.
Yeah, he's definitely a candidate. When you talk about underrated there, I still think Declan Hannon, even though he's captain 3 All-Ireland winning teams and 4 Munsters, I still think he's underrated. Just I don't know if there's anyone else that could play that role for Limerick. Obviously, Richie Reid for Kilkenny is doing a good job as well, but there's levels to this, and Declan is a level ahead from what we've seen. We were talking about Hurler of the Year there as well. For me, it's kind of between Nash, Burns, and Aaron Gillan. And at the weekend, Aaron became Limerick's record ever scorer, and it's not something you're going to dwell on now, because you would imagine Aaron, who's 26 this year, has a good few years left in him. He's only 28 championship appearances. That's how it took him. But we have a question here from Sean T, and he says if Glenn has a good game in the All-Ireland final and Limerick win, he will be Hurler of the Year. I'd agree with that from what we've seen. But on Aaron Gillan, like 6 points from play, marking Dahi Burke, who is probably the best fullback of the last 15, 20 years. Like when Limerick needed a forward to step up, it was Seamus Flanagan in the Munster final. But it had been Gillan up to that point, he did it again, and he was just unmarkable at the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic, and a fantastic contribution. And he scored 3 goals and 40 points in the championship so far.
Yeah, and a lot of that has been from play, as well.
But
Because
you mentioned Dermot Burns a while ago. Dermot Burns has scored 31 points in the 2022 Senior Hurling Championship. He's a wing back.
Yeah,
It's phenomenal, Jack. It's phenomenal. That's off the charts,
Yeah,
like Bunsey, in fairness to him, is in the form of his life,
Yeah, he is. I think. Look, there's all those Limerick players again. I'd imagine are going to get nominated for All Stars, but we're not in the business of All Stars. It's grand to talk about them, but it's all about winning All Ireland finals on the day. And look, Limerick are
we look after the All Ireland final. The All Stars will look after themselves, and they look after themselves anyway, as we know.
Yeah, they do. But we nearly 25 minutes about that game. You could talk a long time about it, but it's in the past now. It'll be fully focused for Limerick. But one thing I will say is we're recording this on a Friday. Limerick played last Sunday. There's a really quick turnaround, for the players. Thank God there was no knocks, because you'd imagine if you pick up a knock in a semi-final, you're gone for the final, the way the nature of it is. But it's starting to slowly build. Obviously 2018 was a really special occasion because it had been so long, but now it's still a hugely special occasion, but it's different that there's probably a different pressure because Limerick will be favourites and they've won it and they're going for 3 in a row. There's a lot of narratives different than it was 4 years ago, but Thank God we're going to have a
Well,
full crowd in there.
there's a couple of things that feed into it this time that make it special. There's a couple of scores to be settled with Kilkenny.
Yeah.
From
One in particular.
2014 and from 2019. And dare I mention it, of course, it's special because you're going for a historic 3 in a row.
Yeah, and that will kind of separate you from, kind of a lot of the chasing pack, like that Tipperary team. I didn't even do back-to-back, but that Tipperary team with the kind of naughties under Liam Sheedy, never did back-to-back. Even though they won 3 in 10 years, like Limerick will go for 3 in 3 years. It'll be alongside the Brian Cody team of the naughties.
Absolutely. Tipperary actually, Jack, haven't done back-to-back since 64, 65.
Yeah, you'd be off the top of my head. I know obviously Kilkenny, Cork, and Tipper have done it. Galway did it. Was there any other teams that have done a back-to-back? Not to mind the 3 in a row.
No. Galway did it in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Conor Hayes captained them to back-to-back All-Irelands, 88 and 18. 87, 88 was one of them, and it's either 87 and 18 or 89.
I think it was 89, because wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was actually, yeah.
It was 28 years when they won it in 17. Sean Teason again there, like that. He's making the point. 1973 was the last time we beat him in a final. Like we hadn't beat him in any sort of game until 2018 after that. And before that it was 1940. Like, so Limerick meet Kilkenny in a share of finals. Like, they don't really seem to meet outside of finals.
Well, that's the point, Jack. That the next point I was going to make. This is going to be the 10th final meeting between Limerick and Kilkenny, and the score at the moment is 4 each. And Kilkenny were awarded the 1911 final, or Limerick were turfed out of the 1911 final. They had beaten Galway in the semi-final very handsomely. And they refused to play the final because there was some issue with fighting over a venue, and Tipperary were nominated to replace them in the final, and Kilkenny duly beat Tipperary very narrowly now.
Yeah, well,
John Joe Kennedy is just saying that it's 87 and 88 for Galway. That is correct. I knew 88 was one, but memory, Jack, and age, I suppose.
Yeah, but look, as you were pointing out there, it'll be bragging rights as well. Like, not only for Sunday, but for the year, but also that it'll go to 5-4. And like, in hurling terms, it's not often that we have the upper hand in an overall stakes with Kilkenny to so long. As I said, it was 45 years without beating them in a championship, but it's a really exciting game to look forward to, as all Ireland finals are. But you're talking to people now, and there'll be a huge scramble for tickets. That's just the case with all Ireland finals. But you're going to have double what you had last year. You'd imagine it's going to be easier for people to get tickets and to experience it. And you'll be hopeful that people have been going to games, will get their tickets. There's always going to be a few more, and that's fair enough as well. But it's building nicely. We obviously had the Pro-Am in a day on Monday and Tuesday, and that showcased all that's good about Limerick. And it was following the final.
Absolutely.
And the lads got their day out. Obviously, the picture of Gerard Hegarty and Tiger Woods, and he's a huge Tiger Woods and golf fan, so that was brilliant for him. But now the focus for the Limerick players and the Limerick population is next Sunday. And even talk about it now, you get excited. They're really special days, Matt. We had my first one.
Absolutely, it's a special time for Limerick, as you say, with the Pro-Am coming in between the All-Ireland semi-final and the final and all that sort of thing. It's just happy days for Limerick, and long may it continue, Jack, because we were long enough out of the limelight. But you were mentioning there, if Limerick beat Kilkenny, they'll go 5-4 ahead of them. I think we'd probably be the only county, except possibly Tipperary, that will be ahead of Kilkenny on the head-to-head in All-Ireland finals.
Yeah, I say even Tipperary, sure, they suffered a share of them. And I suppose they got their own back in 10 and 16 and 19, I suppose.
There was a spell around the 50s, 60s and 70s when Kilkenny couldn't buy a win against Tipperary. The 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s. There was over 40 years when Kilkenny failed to beat Tipperary in the championship. Yeah, it's hard to believe, but it happened.
Yeah, well, look, we'd be worried about our own. What I will say is, too, will we have any more, I suppose, special fans in attendance? We had Bill Murray and Adam Scott with their Limerick jerseys on. And it's brilliant, again, to showcase Limerick that Adam Scott is one of the best golfers in the world, and Bill Murray, like everyone knows who Bill Murray is, a famous actor. You know, it's great that JP is bringing these people along to support Limerick, but will we have anyone new in a Limerick jersey?
Don't know.
I was thinking that if I think the British Open is on next weekend, we could have Tiger in the green jersey, but I don't think now, unless he misses the cut, obviously on Friday, he could get shoehorned into Crow Park. Another question here from Sean T. Matt, and I'll ask you: do you think Keane will start?
I do.
But you're not going to say you're not going to say instead of who or where.
I'm not. Don't ask me what the vacancy is. But look, the simple fact of the matter is, and like you have 2 times Hurler of the year, 2018, 2021. You know, you look what Keane Lynch brings to the team, Jack. You know, you just simply he's indispensable.
Yeah, I think
and like if you go back to the All Ireland finals, Jack, go back to the All Ireland finals in particular. He's unplayable most days, but when he goes to Croke Park on All Ireland final day, he's unplayable altogether. Yeah, ask him down in Cork, would they play him?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think he'll start. I feel like we could get kind of something new. I think we could maybe have him in the corner or something, like as you mentioned, and Sean T is saying there as well about Kyle Hayes playing at 11 and played so well. You know, there's so many options, but we might park the hurling for a while. If anyone has any comments or questions or anything, you can ask away, and we'll get to them in a while. You want to say something, Matt, before we go?
Just before we go, Jack, it's slightly related to hurling, but Amanda won an All-Ireland with Limerick in 2018. Will be defending another All-Ireland come the 1st of August. Colin Ryan.
Yeah.
You know, possibly one of the forgotten men of hurling. You know, fantastic hurler, an All-Ireland under 21 and an All-Ireland senior medal winner. He won the Puck Friday last year over the Cooley Mountains, and he will be defending his title on the Monday, the bank holiday Monday, the 1st of August. And we want to wish Colin all the very best with his preparations for the coming weeks for that final, and let's hope he'll bring back that trophy again to Limerick.
Yeah, obviously a brilliant hurler in his own right, and he was part of the team in 19. I just saw a picture during the week, and he did an interview, and he did it with the GAA.ie, but we have it up on our page as well if you want to listen. He was obviously played with so many of those players, and he brings up that interesting narrative that 2014 All-Ireland final lost at himself, the likes of Keane Lynch, Sean Finn, Peter Casey, Shane Sonnigan. They all played, they all lost, and it seemed to be the driving force, because within a year, they had won a 21s All-Ireland, and within 3, they had won a senior All-Ireland. So it's an interesting, you brought up Colin there. But look, that's the 1st of August.
Yeah, one of the game's nice guys, and we wish Colin the very best of luck now in his preparations, and the very, very best of luck on the day. And I have no doubt he'll give it everything. And he was a convincing winner last year, and you know, it will take a lot to wrestle that trophy away from Palace Green, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it'd be great to have all those All-Irelands resting in Limerick come the end of the year. I suppose moving into Camogie, it was a brilliant weekend as well for Limerick, and it probably went under the radar because of the men's. But it wasn't she was player of the month, but for the first time I'd say this year, it wasn't just Caoimhe Costa show, and we will talk about Caoimhe in a minute. But the nature of that win over Antrim, where a lot of players like Rebecca Lee and Caoimhe Lyons, as well as Caoimhe Costa, got on the scoreboard and popped up with really vital scores. And we had talked at the start of the year that Kilkenny and Galway were obviously, you know, they were free hits to an extent, but there was real pressure on then. And to go 3 from 3 for John Lennox's side after falling to relegation says a lot about the confidence of this side, but the strength in character to lose the first 2 and know your back's against the wall and come out and do the job, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, Jack, I had the privilege, and I'll say it is a privilege of seeing the first 2 of those against Offaly and Down, and the privilege because of the way they went about their business. Like when they met Offaly in the third round over in Camogie, there was absolutely immense pressure on Limerick. They were meeting the side that a couple of 6 or 7 weeks previously had sent them down through the relegation trapdoor in the league, and they were coming into the game with on the back of 2 defeats against Offaly, against Galway and against Kilkenny, and they knew were they to lose to Offaly, it was going to be a second relegation scrap of the year, but this time in the big one, the championship. But the performance that day, Jack, was from 1 to 15, and it was the whole approach, as I said in the last cast, that really made me feel privileged to be there. They really put it up to Offaly because, like, it's hard to describe the intensity of the pressure that was on Limerick, Jack.
Yeah.
It was so make or break, and John did this, and it was on the back of 8 defeats between the league championship and Munster championship, and it was the first, the first thing he said immediately when we met him after, that it's great to be given an interview after winning a game. I've been giving them in losing games all season, and like the turnaround continued against Down, and it was a game with a difference. Down raced into a 9 points to 1 lead. Now they had an advantage of not a very influential win, I would say. Claire Keating made a stunning save at 9-1. At 1-9-1, practically out of reach. Limerick went down, and the 2 Cuevas contrived to conjure up an excellent goal, which was finished by Cueva Costello. And Limerick came back on the day. It was a day in which Limerick scored 2-11, and Cueva scored 2-10 of it.
Yeah.
And but you got the sense going to Antrim the following week that the momentum was right. They were going in the right direction. But you worried, rightly worried, about where the scores were going to come from. Were Cueva to be held, or whether Cueva picked up an injury or anything? Were we a one-trick pony when it came to scoring? But by God, that question was answered in Belfast in emphatic circumstances when we had 6 players got on the scoring sheet, which was fantastic, including two of the girls that came off the bench, Michelle Curtin and Lizzie Boylan, coming off the bench and getting vital scores. But like the Down game, that game was only 3 or 4 minutes old, Jack, when Antrim were up by 1-2 to no score. And you said, heck, here goes. The good work of the last two weeks is gone. But you see, there was a different type of pressure on Limerick in the game against Antrim. In the first 2, you just had to get the win to get away from the relegation scrap. But now, when you were going to Antrim, you were out of that. You were quite safe. But there was a new pressure there, that you had gone so far, and why not go the next step and make it through to the quarterfinal? And they did an excellent job, Jack, in getting over the line. They scored the last 5 points. Rebecca DeLee was in absolutely fantastic form, but that doesn't surprise me, because I thought she was very, very influential in the comeback against Down the previous week. Now, she didn't get on the score sheet, but did an awful lot of work, did an awful lot of important work, did an awful lot of good work. And, with Rebecca now and the 2 Cuevas, so suddenly up front, suddenly we're posing to be a bit of a threat again. And look, I'm really looking forward to the Saturday week, Jack. Tomorrow week, when they play Waterford in the quarterfinal in Hurlers, I'm really giving them a shout. I'm really giving them a shout.
It's kind of a change. Look, we said they needed a break, and that's probably a break there because they're not faced with Galway or Cork or Kilkenny or
Yeah.
even Tipperary to an extent. They're faced with a team that
Yeah.
Waterford have pushed on in recent years. There's no doubt in that. But like Limerick on their day will go in with huge confidence, and when you're to no disrespect, when you're playing the big teams, you're probably going with more hope than confidence. Whereas now it's going to be we can definitely beat this team, and as you
Yeah.
said, it'd be a nice way to start the weekend. If
It was.
Limerick could reach.
We beat Waterford in the Munster Championship in Waterford last year, Jack.
Yeah, and way to reach the final. So.
And there's the carrot of getting to a semi-final, which is huge. A semi-final that this year is going to be played in Croke Park.
Yeah, we've seen the hurlers. We've seen the footballers break a long way to play in Croke Park.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can see the Camogie team do the same.
So Saturday week is laced with with targets to go after. Semi-final place played in Croke Park. Limerick team back in Croke Park for the first time since 2014. There's a nice ring to it, Jack.
Yeah, and look, we'll talk about that game more. But for now, I suppose the moment kind of belongs to Cueva because look, you can't, I suppose, dismiss a national honour like that to be Player of the Month. For a team like Limerick, that would be probably seen as low enough in the pecking order. A lot of time these awards go to a good player and the best teams. For Cueva, she nearly single-handedly pulled them through the first game, and then look, she had her teammates sent to help her. And obviously, the defence is always helping. You mightn't get in the score sheet and have a great game, but the score, as you said, 9 points and then 2-10, in consecutive games with your backs against the wall, that's the sign of a great player. And obviously Cueva is, since she burst onto the scene all those years ago.
Absolutely, absolutely brilliant minor back in 2014, one of the cornerstones of that team, which is the captain of that team that won the minor All-Ireland in 2014, which was absolutely phenomenal success. But knowing Cueva, Cueva will be the first one to say that this is for the team, because that's the type of attitude she has. She's such a great team player. And I am absolutely thrilled for her. When I got the news yesterday, like it was just fantastic news in a great news week for Limerick. And it shouldn't be lost in all the good news that's going around. The phenomenal achievement that is on the part of Cueva, to be named Player of the Month. And Jack, she's after being named Player of the Month at a time, at the peak time of the year. And you touched on it there when you said, about all the leading counties, the so-called leading lights. Let's hope there'll be a new leading light before this championship is over. But all the leading lights were playing in the most important games of the year in the championship. Yeah. And here she emerges on top of the pile, and rightly so. And, we shouldn't be in the slightest bit apologetic. And, but I'll tell you, I don't want to discuss it, Jack, and I'm putting you on notice if when the All-Star nominations come out, if she's not among them. And we'll talk about the team then as well.
Yeah, but she definitely should be in a nomination. That shouldn't be a question, but whether she get the All-Star now, we'll see. But a lot of them times them are for the knockout stages. But again, a huge well done to Cueva. More good news for Adair as well. I'm fairly sure she was at the Manor one of those days. So well done to Cueva, well done to Limerick, and we look forward to that quarter-final next week. We have a semi-final for the ladies footballers this weekend to look ahead to, Matt, for Mana. And if it's anything like their previous semi-final meeting that we had in, I suppose, it was maybe March, we're in for a treat.
We're in for a treat. We're in for a difficult game, Jack. We're in for a tough game. Both sides have come into the semi-final having suffered a defeat. Limerick were in a three-team group with Antrim and New York, and lost narrowly to Antrim, having led early on, were up as much as 5 points early on, and just couldn't see it out. It was, on a day which Limerick did everything but win the football match, you might say, but they did a very, very convincing win over New York, which qualified them for the semi-final. Fermanagh lost to Carlow in the championship. They've had a kind of a checkered progression to the semi-final. They beat London, and they lost Carlow, and they got a walkover from Derry.
Yeah.
You seem to be checking it there. You seem to be doubting it, or have I got it that right?
No, you have it right. I was looking at. I did preview done this morning, so I was just checking for my own notes. But I knew you had it right. I did it this morning.
Yeah. So like we know how strong Fermanagh are, but like in fairness, going into the league semi-final, Jack, Fermanagh were firm favourites to beat Limerick.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And like I'll tell you, Graham Shine, Jack, has assembled a very, very useful Limerick squad. Now I know he turned back the clock with recalling so many of the 2018 team. But his decision has been vindicated, Jack.
Yeah.
Like Cathy Mee, who missed out last year, is absolutely. I think Cathy is playing the best football of her life. I haven't seen her playing as well. She is absolutely in top form. And like he could afford the luxury, and it is a luxury, to let Katrina Davis on the bench the last day. Yeah. Because Mairead Kavanagh, who missed the first game, was away for the first game, had returned, and Mairead came in instead of Katrina Davis. So to give you an idea of the strength of the options, Amy Ryan is having a fantastic renaissance since she moved to full forward. As you know, she was playing wing back during the league. I think she's playing a very, very effective game at full forward, and I honestly think it's her best position. But the heartbeat of that team, and I'm talking about Cathy Mee being so good, but Graham Shine's decision, or whoever's decision it was, to name Roisin Ambrose as the team captain was inspirational. She is absolutely phenomenal, Jack.
Yeah,
her performance was absolutely phenomenal and inspirational. The recall of Alva Neary Quaid, was a big decision, big call, player coming back into inter-county play after six years. It has been a runaway success, as has the recall of Anya McGrath. I know Graham Shine turned back the clock for the tried and trusted. He's done it very, very successfully. Yep. Got to the league final, and as you know, talking with him, he has this beef about it should be 2 up and 2 down, and he's probably right. I can't disagree with him on that one.
No,
and because he feels that the progression of the team, where it's going, that they need to step out of Division 4 at this stage, because he's brought in young players as well, and he's using them off the bench, the like of Rose Hyland, the like of Anna O'Dea, the like of Sarah Dillon. There's a number of them he has blooded and given them. Carl Bateman in goal. He's given them chances, and to get game time at this level under their belt, he's assembled a very, very strong side. Now, Fermanagh have a very good attack, Jack.
Yeah,
a very, very good attack. We all know about Blahin Brogue and Laura Grew, and of course they have Emer Smith at full forward, arguably one of the best players. Probably playing the code outside of senior ranks. Would be comfortable in any company at any level, and is a serious forward. But it's great to have somebody with the experience of Alva Quaid back around the edge of the square there now, where Emer Smith would be most likely to cause the most trouble. So
Could have been brought in with Emer Smith in mind, or Blahin Bogue, whoever goes in there, you know. So
Well,
it could have been
Blahin
forward
Bogue
thinking.
will play centre forward. You know, Sarah Britton is another one that they have, a very good forward that they have. Their top players seem to be loaded in the forwards. But we made progress against our defence, Jack. And
Yeah,
that
it was a bit of a
that was
shootout.
very evident in the turnaround. And I think we got 4 goals on the day, didn't we?
Yeah, it was 4-10 to 3-9, I think. It was a real
14
shootout.
to 3-9, yeah. That was it. We got 4 goals.
I
So,
think Rebecca DeLee
you
got the
know,
last goal, and Marie Kavanagh got 2,
yeah,
and Kathy Me got 1. So it was a bit of a shootout, but
yeah.
again, semi-finals are there to be won, you know, and the Hurlers showed that at the weekend. You don't have to be at your best. Sometimes you just have to get over the line,
Well,
and that'll be the message for Graham
I
Shine's side,
I
because
think Limerick Jack have improved. I think Limerick have improved and you know, measurably improved. And there was that little gap there between the league and the championship for Limerick. Now, because there was no Munster championship. But the same did not apply to Fermanagh, because there were 2 junior teams in Ulster, Fermanagh and Antrim. And they very judiciously played a straight final over 2 legs, which meant that they got 2 games. Excuse me. Now, Antrim came out on top. After the 2 games, but there was very, very little in it. But those 2 games were vital for both Antrim and Fermanagh. And had Limerick got games, I'm convinced that it wouldn't be Fermanagh that we would be playing at the weekend. It would be Carlow, because Limerick would have finished top of the group. Because Antrim came to Bruff that day on the back of those 2 tough games against Fermanagh in the previous weeks. Limerick were idle.
Yeah, you make an interesting point there. Look, again, it's just a game to be won. Limerick have got that experience of those 2 games now under their belt. Fermanagh had 2 as well, so it's really finely poised. But I suppose well for Limerick that they have a win in the semi-final over Fermanagh already. They had lost a couple of league semi-finals and Ireland semi-finals, that they've kind of got over that hoodoo now of getting to a final. Hopefully it'll be a second final for Graham Shiny's side. That's
Well,
half one.
Let's hope we'll have 2018 all over again, Jack. You know, that's the way things will pan out at the end of the day.
Yeah, the double. That's half one this Sunday in Kiltoom, and that game will be streamed live by the LJFA for anyone that wants to watch it or can't get to Roscommon on Sunday. Before we finish up, Matt, we'll obviously look back on the opening round of the Limerick Senior Football Championship. I could only get to 1 game. That was the Friday night in Ballygrand that we mentioned a while ago, and we might finish with that. But I suppose we don't have to dwell too much because we didn't see all the games, but you know, it's only the first round. We have 5 group games again this year, so we'll have time to kind of digest and get to other games. But you were at Adair and Galtee Gales, I know that. And the other game you were at?
I was at Kildimo Palace Kinry and St. Kieran's in the Bog Garden. And Jack, you know, we didn't know what to expect from Kildimo Palace Kinry. They came up as 2021 intermediate champions, and as many as 7 of the team that lined out in the county final for various reasons weren't available. But Jack, the performance that they put on for 50 minutes was phenomenal. It was like as if they were in playing senior all their life rather than on their maiden voyage in senior football. And they were 4 points up with 12 minutes to go, got a penalty, and for 7 points, Peter Nash stepped up to it. He seemed to have done everything right, but somehow Ian Mackesy contrived to get across the goal and save it. It was the save of, you know, it was a match-defining save, and it was a game-saving save, because, you know, at 7 points, I couldn't see a road back, but practically immediately, St. Kieran's conjured up a goal that would be a contender for goal of the season, even at this early stage. But in its build-up, and you had John Hayes and you had Liam Kennedy, you had Dara Tracy, all involved in setting up Seamus Mangan for a clinical finish. And suddenly it was a quick turnaround. Instead of it being a 7-point game, it was a 1-point game. And at that stage, you sensed that Kildimo, Pallaskenry were losing their grip on the game. And that's the way it panned out. Now, Seamus Mangan, who was very, very quiet for the first 50 minutes, like, he made a telling intervention in the closing stages. He got a goal and 3 points all from play, which by any benchmark is an absolutely phenomenal return. And that was one of the main reasons that they turned. They got a couple of very good scores after reducing it to a point. But one couldn't, Jack, would feel sorry for Kildimo Pallaskenry, because, it was a historic first appearance in the Limerick Senior Football Championship, and so nearly became, and could have so easily been, a historic first win on a historic first day.
But nearly, for Kieran's, they hadn't, as far as I know, I don't think they'd won a group stage game since 2019, so I suppose there was probably a bit of share of nerves with them as well, and they'll use this as real, I suppose, motivation now that they've got a win under their belt. And obviously for KP, that they know that they're at the level. You just be worried for them that once the hurling comes back in, that having to go dual senior, it could be a problem. But a good first showing for them. Obviously Adair and Galty Gales, Adair were comfortable enough winners, like they were in the semi-final last year. There was no Hugh Burke, no Tommy Childs on either side. What were your main takeaways from that game?
Yeah, but just before, just a final point on Kieran's, if you don't mind, Jack. Like St. Kieran's were coming off after a very, very good run in the league. Yeah. The final of which they pushed Newcastle West to the very, very limit. So maybe there was a weight of expectation on St. Kieran's on the day. I don't know, but that is not to detract from 1 minute from Kildimo Pallaskenry. And the 2 goals came from the 2 wing backs, which is Kieran Barry and Liam O'Sullivan. It'll just give you an idea of the way that they were pressing forward. Adair versus Galty Gales. Stand up, Mikey Lyons, take a bow, 8 points. You can't argue with it. 4 from play, 4 from freeze. So, fantastic performance by Mikey. Like Galty Gales, they blew an awful lot of early chances, Jack. At a stage when they could have been keeping in touch with Adair, because they raced into a 3 points lead early on. And but then suddenly Galty Gales, they raced into a 3 point lead, and they didn't score again until the 20th minute. At which stage Conor Moriarty, opened Galty Gales' account. But really, look, Adair had the upper hand for the most part. Now, Galty Gales were down 3 big players. Yes, Adair were down Hugh Burke. And you mentioned that Tommy Childs was missing. Maurice O'Sullivan was missing. And very, very importantly, for the Gales, Sean McGrath was missing. Sean had picked up an injury 3 or 4 days before the game, and he's huge loss to him. Now, they did welcome back Sean Casey after a number of years abroad. But he will obviously take a bit of time to settle into the cut and thrust of seeing a football championship again. But I thought overall it was a game that Adair never looked like losing, Jack.
Yeah.
And the Gales never really threatened to make a serious imprint on once. They were happy to incrementally build a lead, Adair, and keep daylight between them. 13 points to 6 at the end of the day.
Comfortable.
Probably is a reflection of what I witnessed anyway. Disappointed for the Gales. They've got to pick it up. this weekend, and we know who they're playing this weekend.
I wouldn't want to be Celtic.
Are you back in goals, Jack? Now that you're back in Ireland?
No, I'm still injured. I don't know if I'll play it all this year, or I don't know when I'll play again. But I'm still injured. But there's a very able deputy in my place, as was shown last Friday. As I said, I came in. A namesake, yeah. I came in I flew from Vegas to San Fran, and that was delayed, so I didn't get into Dublin till I suppose 2 o'clock-ish. Missed my bus, and I had to wait another 2.5 hours. So I went straight from the airport to Bellygrand with no bags. So if there's anyone from Dublin Airport has myself or Kira's bag, I'd be really appreciative of that, because I'm rotating 3 or 4 pieces of clothing. But yeah, straight to Bellygrand. I missed the start. The boys had a good start. Killian Ferris got a goal, and then there was kind of an innocuous enough goal that I think Jamie Sullivan has taken. But conceded 2 soft goals then at the start of the second half. Bylander, we had a men sent off as well, so Bylanders were within 4, but to be fair to the boys, did very well. Just kept Bylanders at bay. Bylanders like to hold the ball. They're very comfortable. Will go over and back, but a bit reliant on Jamie Barry Murphy. They're kind of expecting him to not only set it up, but to score it himself. And we contained them to 2-3. And I think the 2 goals are the only goal scores from play. But you were talking about Mikey Lyons there a while ago. Darren was just out of this world. I think anyone that has seen him play in the last year or so won't be surprised. But obviously we didn't get to see him for Limerick, and obviously he was his first year, so maybe a bit early. There was people in clamoring for him to come on against Cork. I think just the year inside there will do him the world of good, and it has. And hopefully more the same this weekend from him against Galtee Gales, because I know you weren't there, Matt, but it was different level altogether. Bylanders couldn't get a hand on him, and I don't think anyone would. That's not a slight in Bylanders, but brilliant performances all round. Obviously his brother Padden was back in the team as well, so you had the experience there from Ranahans, and just brilliant performances all around, so it bodes well. That was Group 2, so ourselves, St. Kieran's and Adair all have 2 points, and none of them teams are meeting each other this weekend. And then in Group 1, you had Clahan and Galway had a draw. Newcastle West were winners over Monaleen 2-7-8, which I thought would be a lot closer. I think you did as well. And Father Casey's then were the most comprehensive team over the weekend, 14-point winners over Ula. Father
Casey scored 2-4 and time added on.
Yeah, I heard that all right. But still,
they went on a scoring blitz.
For Father Casey's, I know we weren't at the game, but that'll give them a big boost, because we've talked at length about the talent they have. It's kind of translating it onto the field, and they might have scored 2-4 late on, but they still were really comprehensive in that game by all accounts.
Oh, absolutely. That's not to detract from them. It was probably only the icing on the cake.
Yeah. So, again, Newcastle and Casey's aren't meeting this week. They can go both 1 to 4 points. Obviously, Clon Galway drew the first day, but again, look, there's 5 games. You don't want to read too much into the early round games, especially weren't at them. But we will give our predictions as always.
But just before we go there now to the predictions, Jack, Kieran O'Callaghan, everybody knows him quite well. Everybody feared him for many years. Kieran lost his mum during the week, and we'd like to send our sympathy to him, and also to Danny Froon, who has lost his granddad this week.
We send out our condolences to all those, and look, anytime we lose someone from the J family, it's keenly felt. So again, as sincere as condolences to both those families. We'll go on to predictions, Matt, and we will start with Group 1. I suppose I'll just get up the table from the first week. You're leading after round 1. I picked Monaleen, you picked Newcastle. Fairly foolish to back against the champions, but I did say they'd split it with the Hurlers, so I'm going to back Newcastle now for or Monaleen for the Hurling. But we both had Casey's, both had Adair, both at St. Kieran's. You had them to win by 3 points, which they did, and I had Ballysteen. So that's the nature of it after one weekend. But we'll go into this weekend, Matt. We'll start with Group 1, and as I'm looking at here, Newcastle West versus Ula.
I'm going for Newcastle West by 6.
NCW by 6. I have them by 5. Again, no slight on Ula, but it's just about what Newcastle have. And obviously Ula don't have the likes of Dar Donovan and Rich English and these boys, Barry, Matt Ryan, them Jaws. So we'll see.
And there's a couple of lads away as well in America, so that they're a bit under strength at the minute. And I think Newcastle West will win that. Obviously, now that we're back to the 5-match format, I think they'll want to get the job of putting qualification to bed as soon as possible.
Yeah, Monaghan Galway.
I'm going for Monaghan. Galway were lucky the last day. I was talking to one of them in the week. They were lucky to snatch a late draw with a goal against against Cahan. I'm going for Monaghan to bounce back and win that one. It's Monaghan are going to be in trouble if they don't win that one in terms of qualifying for the league. But it's a hallmark of Monaghan to come late in the championship and qualify. I'm going for them to win by 4 points.
Yeah, I had 4 down. I'm going to go 5. Just as you said, they'd want to get one on the board. Galway obviously had that cushion of a point, but
I was actually saying it. I was actually saying it to the player I met. I said, "Look, you have a very valuable point on the board, which could prove to be very valuable."
Yeah, and then the final game of the group for Casey's versus Clahan. Casey's obviously won and Clahan with that draw.
I'm going for Casey's by 3.
Casey's by 3. I have Casey's by 5. I know it was the late show, but if they can get it to click, Father Casey's, they're as good as anyone in that competition. So we're all said Newcastle, Monaghan, Casey's. I'd say we could have a difference now on this side of the draw. We'll start with Adair versus Galway Palace. Just run through those games. Newcastle West versus Ula is Saturday in Kilmallock at 7:30. Casey's versus Clahan is tonight at 7:30 in Askeaton. Tonight being Friday. And then Monaghan versus Galway is Sunday in Kilbredy at 2:00. Going to Adair and Kildare Palace Kinnery, it's Saturday at 7:30 in the Bog Garden.
Yeah, I'm going for Adair by 6.
Adair by 6. I have Adair by 5. I think the last few work now is big for them, but as you said, they have Mikey Lyons step up and they've Robbie as well, and they've these riches. And they're very good in the group stages.
Davy Lyons picked up a knock very early on against Galty Gales. He went off after about, I think, just 14 minutes. Okay. And Davy would be a loss, but whether he'll have recovered or not, I think the turnaround might come against him.
Yeah.
The quick turnaround. So I think he'd probably be in a race against time or under pressure.
Yeah, I think Cahill Downs could be back for Kildare Palace. I don't think he was playing the first day, I think.
Yeah, I understand that Cahill Downs will be back.
So that could be a momentum swing as well for Kildare Palace. I'm going with 5. You're saying 6. Ballysteen versus Galty Gales.
I'm going for Ballysteen by 2.
No, it's about time you backed us. I have Ballysteen by 3. To be a revenge on the mind from last year, you were at that game. I was in goals, and look, we never got to the pitch of the game, and Galty Gales are deserved winners, so we owe them one for that. And Ballylanders against St. Kieran's.
I'm going for Bally by 2.
Bally by 2. Yeah, I thought, no, all right. And you've shown, I suppose, in recent years when backs are against the wall, obviously last year in the relegation side of it, that when needs be, Ballylanders often come up with the win. But I'm going with St. Kieran's. You mentioned their league form already. They have that win. They kind of got that monkey over their back just to get the W. So I'm going Kieran's by 2. So we're in agreement with everything, bar that Ballylanders is St. Kieran's game. So again, you've tipped your own, and I've gone against you. It worked last week. I don't really mind this week which way it goes, but
I feel that the extra week with Efi Fitzgerald now back on board, and like he will have seen what they're capable of or what they're not capable of in the game against Ballysteen, and he will have learned from it. And I feel that Bally might just turn it around. Having said that, how good Kildare Palace Kinnery were, and I was a bit disappointed with St. Kieran's because I had expected quite a bit more of them, particularly in light of their league run. And you see, it's when a team gets to the knockout stages of the league, the way the league is structured now, they're getting up to the pitch of championship form or near it. you know.
Yeah.
So I was a bit disappointed with St. Kieran's, but I have no doubt St. Kieran's, you know, they're going to take great heart from the win over Kildare Palace Kenry, because they were devoid of a group stage win for the last couple of years, and they had him. For them, they had an uncharacteristic brush with relegation. They were involved in relegation spats in successive years, and you know the target for St. Kieran's now, with a break coming up in the championship. You know, win your football match on Saturday night. You have 4 points. You have virtually banished the spectre of relegation.
Yeah, pretty much. You'd imagine.
You know,
yeah, it's huge. Caveat.
There's a big prize there for them, but equally on the other side for Ballylanders, lose 2 games, and although there's 3 more to go, but you're almost already embroiled in a relegation scrap.
Yeah, so even though there's 3 games left to go out this weekend, a lot could be decided. We've seen that these things change. Obviously, the intermediate, the Premier Junior and Junior Championship run as well. All those results are on the website. Just we're running out of time here. There's 70 minutes on the clock. So once the inter-county scene is finished, we can do way more about the club. But for now, you kind of have to split it evenly. So I think 70 minutes, Matt, is plenty there. We've got through the inter-county stuff, the club stuff. Any other business that we're missing?
No, I think we've it fairly comprehensively covered, Jack.
Yeah, and
you know,
I suppose we have the games at the weekend. We have the club football games, but in the back of your mind, you're looking forward to next weekend. You have the Camogie in the quarterfinals. You could have an All-Ireland ladies football final to look forward to, but you do have the big one, the All-Ireland senior hurling final to look forward to. We will do a full preview on that next week, solely on that game, and we can look at the other things in a different podcast. But call it a week out, Matt. Next Sunday.
Call it?
Yeah.
I'll call it a week out, or 2 days out, or 3 days out, Jack. I'm calling Limerick.
Yeah, and I suppose we called this a year out, really, that we fancied Limerick to get back there. They're 1 game away. They've been so good to us over the last 5 or 6 years, and John Kiley will be the cherry on top. So here's hoping. But for now,
Jack, before we go, can we just spare a thought for one of our own, Leo O'Connor, who came so close to an absolutely fantastic win with Offaly Minor Hurlers.
Yeah, we were watching it in the Clonliffe house. It's just beside Crow Park. It's kind of an adopted Limerick pub at this stage. It was lovely colour, and everyone was going for Offaly. Not just for Leo, but obviously it was disappointing for Leo. But just to see an underdog, and I suppose it shows how far we've come from '94 that we were supporting Offaly in All-Ireland final. But to those young lads,
absolutely. But in fairness, Leo has done a fantastic job, and you know, I felt gutted for him, absolutely, because I had been speaking to him the previous Sunday, and you know, he has put so much into it over the last 3 years, and you know, has come so close. It was a heartbreaking win heartbreaking way to win the championship. But we say, Leo, keep your chin up. You've done a fantastic job. Yeah,
and we saw what the Limerick minor team did, that we mentioned before, that last 2014 All-Ireland final, what they've gone on to achieve. So for Offaly's sake and for Leo, that could be the stepping stone. But yeah, really heartbreaking. And talking to some people from Tip, they were even saying, you know, not that it diluted the win, but they themselves felt sorry for Offaly, you know, that the whole country bar Tip behind them, and even some parts of Tip. So hearts go out to them boys, but I'm sure they'll bounce back, and they've done their county proud, and Leo has done himself and Offaly and the people of Limerick as well proud. But all systems go for the All-Ireland tier, Matt. Again, thank you to everyone that listened, and we'll be back next week. Look forward to an All-Ireland final and probably more. But for now, thank you and goodbye.
Cheers, Jack.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods, and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the the game.
Limerick went out there from the workout today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the packet it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We've had a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Curry. Curry leading the charge of the Limerick Brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.